Hello, model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Revell, and here I'm going to update you one more time on these Revell 71 Boss 351 Mustangs here. Both of these kits were provided by our sponsor, Hobby Nut Models, who is sponsoring this build, as they provided both kits and the MCW paint I used on the bodies. And I've been enjoying building them. If you've been following along and watching the progress, you've seen quite a bit here. I'm almost done. I've got a little bit more to do and some things going on, but I didn't quite get as far as I wanted to. And I had a couple little issues going on. One of them is my hand here. Really butchered up my finger this weekend, and don't have any cool stories to go along with it other than today at work I had a customer say, "Oh, do you got a small boy or girl?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And they're like, "Oh, just noticed the band-aid on your finger and all the emojis on it." And I laughed. I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of a clear sign that you've got a young one, as all of your band-aids are cute and cool, but I mean, I kind of like this stuff anyway." But my boy didn't want me to wear it, but here, I'll give you a peek at the carnage here, even though I really don't have a cool story, but I really tore that sucker up. So yeah, it dug into it really good, almost to the point where it's borderline on whether or not I need stitches. But super glue was holding it together. But anyway, that really slowed down my building. So I did get the paint on these, as far as the trim silver and black and all the decals on them. And I was working on the two chassis. So for first, we'll show you how this one came out with the silver there. And as you can see in some angles, the decal, you can see the shine is different between that and a Tamiya TS76 paint. And then, but the decals on the side here, just looking really good and really popping. I'm really liking this color combo, and I knew that I was definitely going to do a silver striped car. Most likely this blue is it's my favorite one of all of them, or the dark forest green. But this one has got all the decals on it, and it's pretty much ready for foil and stuff. So that one's done. And this one's no different. Same thing. Got the black on there, and then the decals and all the trimmings. So she's looking really good. And I shot this black, and I don't know if you can kind of see it, but the decals are a little transparent, so some of the yellows coming through are not showing up quite as black. But the camera's really making that stand out, hopefully with the bright lights under it. But I've got multiple sets of decals, so I can double layer it if I needed to. But it's looking presentable enough, I think. So I'm gonna leave this alone. But all the black and yellow. So same thing. This one's pretty much ready for the bare metal foil and start attaching the windows and stuff. But this one needs to be cleaned up. But I got it pretty much ready. And then the white Ram Air decals, and of course the black ones on the silver. So that's looking pretty cool. But at the same time, got some things going on. Oh, and on the motors, I'll definitely say you want to put these decals on the motor before you paint it or assemble it. Like, this air filter is really hard to get to. Even these ones on the side here, they look really good, but once they're in the chassis, it's a little hard to get. Even wrapping this alternator one, it wraps around the alternator. And there's another fan belt one here. And there's some on the very front of this valve cover here, which you can see that little yellow dot OK ones, which you almost can't see with my naked eyes, but the camera picking them up on these valve covers. And one was missing on the other motor. But getting them on before you glue the motor in place, and there's one on top of the coil here. Definitely much easier after the fact, but I started assembling that one. So I'll show you this one. So here's this chassis after, getting the silver paint. Now, the silver paint is not quite as obvious, but when the light hits it, it really reflects. So it's kind of funny. It's almost like color changing. But there's all the front suspension put in there. And then on this side, and I made a mistake of painting the whole top of that black, so I went back and covered it in engine blue. So that was me misinterpreting the instructions. But Rex posted a picture of one of these and explained what it actually is online on the forum. And because he posted that, I realized I painted that wrong. The directions are trying to tell you to paint the 2 dots black and not the whole thing black. But I got all that in there, and I'll tell you, getting that in there is much easier with the engine out. And the instructions tell you to put this on, glue it in place first, and get it in there. But when it comes to putting this engine in here, now you've got to squeeze it in between that and all the mounts. And I found it's a little bit difficult to get the exhaust manifolds because it's hitting the top here. And you can get it. And then once you get it past, like I just did, you see how that stud is just a little too long and it won't go into the thing and it's hitting the top here. So if this isn't glued in place, it's much easier to put the engine in, but it's a lot harder to put that power steering in if this isn't in place. But I found on this one, my other one, I just cut this stud just a little bit shorter and then it fit right in there. But without trimming that up, it's kind of a tight fit. So that's where I'm at with this one. So you can see this one, I've got the front suspension done, and that's about it. And then this firewall parts here, I haven't done any of the front stuff. So that one's got a ways to go. And then this motor, like I mentioned, all the decals. And I started pre-assembling some of this stuff. The other chassis here, this one I did finish. I've got a little bit of cleanup to do, but it's fitting there, motor's in there. And as I mentioned, I was putting those decals on after the motor was glued in place because I completely forgot to do them. I was just kind of in a hurry. And when this brace is in there, it's really hard to see that steering gear, but it is in there. Certain angles you can see it. And everything fits really nice. Now, there are some decals like the battery decal. It's really hard to see it. Matter of fact, the decal has all the red dots, but I ended up hitting those with paint. And so a lot of those decals, even though they're there, they're really hard to see. So it's really a cool looking engine compartment here though. Really is, with all the detail and everything that's in here. It's just really, really cool. But yeah, I've got all that in there. And then all the exhaust. And it all fits like a puzzle. So your sway bar, the axles, all of this stuff. Blacked out the exhaust tips there. But it all went together really, really nicely and fit. I had to trim that stud a little bit and that one fit in there. And I was a little worried about the drive shaft angle, but it doesn't look like it did anything. And one thing the Revell instructions don't tell you is this firewall piece where this goes, it's got some notches, and I'll show you on the other one. See on the back side there, these 2 notches, you got to cut them out for that piece to get in there. But it doesn't tell you about doing that, or I missed it, that you need to trim those and then that piece will sit down in there flush. But I haven't done it to this one. I decided I would show you on this one. But it does work and it fits pretty well. Oh, one other thing. You notice these 2 motors? It's a good thing I had a spare parts kit, because apparently you can glue that water pump in upside down. You see, here's the water outlet. There's the other water inlet. So, well, actually inlet, outlet, kind of backwards. And I didn't realize that, so I was trying to glue the pulleys on, and they didn't quite line up, but I got them on. And then I went to attach the hose, and I realized that's on the wrong spot. And I started to cut it, but my razor blade was kind of going sideways. And I could see that it was going to be a little bit of an issue. But then I remembered I have that parts kit, basically, that has a spare motor. So because I had all of the parts, I went and did it. But it's a good thing I had that, because I had already lost a mirror, one of these mirrors, when I was priming it. My airbrush caught it just right, and at 30 psi launched one of these into the grass. So I lost one of the mirrors. I could not find it, but I had extras from that parts kit. So that parts kit has kind of saved my butt already. Got extra decals, had to use a good chunk of the engine, and it was easier because I used that Tamiya glue that melts it into there, and that really did a really good job of getting that in there. And you glue this water pump to the timing cover before you glue the timing cover onto the block. So I didn't realize this one was upside down. That one was not, or the one I put in here was not. It was when I was working on the second engine that I realized, oh wow, um, missed that one. So even you guys that call me a so-called expert, I make mistakes as well. And so I was getting ready to fix that and realized, oh, okay, really don't have to. But because of my wound here, I wasn't able to get as far as I wanted to with some of the body work and trim. Both interiors need to be done. All the major painting is done. Now it's just all of the detail painting as far as the trim, the decals, the gauges, and the seat highlights on these, whether they're silver or white on these or and black on these, because I believe the white one has black. I was researching those, but I haven't done that yet. But I need to paint all those, and they don't have decals for those, but they have decals for just about everything else. There are a lot of decals, and some of them are explained and called out. But really enjoying building these and enjoying your comments and everything that you guys are bringing to the table and sharing, and others that are building this online too, kind of following their builds as well. So I am fully enjoying these. I'm glad you guys are responding and enjoying this series as well. And a huge thank you again to Hobby Nut Models for providing these and everything. So you guys, thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I really do appreciate it. And you guys, you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Saturday. And hopefully my finger heals up enough and everything so I can get back to on this. And I got some body work to a couple others I want to do. But with something like this, the water and the body work is less entertaining. But anyway, thank you, and you guys, I'll see you next Saturday.